If you know who James Dauma is, he is probably, one of the true geniuses that we have in the Tesla community and knows all the aspects of the software, the hardware, etc. And he's commonly, on various different shows. He's been on my show, I think, one time before. But James is also nobody's fool, and he's very, very careful with his words. And apparently, he has tried the new latest out, the version 13.2.7. And according to the son of Walkley, who is also a regular participant in the community and well respected, he says, this was his quote from James Dauma. He says, Tesla FSD is indistinguishable from magic and very, he didn't use very, he used an F word of some kind, amazing. So that's from James Dauma. Take that for what you will. I believe that is a very good endorsement. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks or even days as more and more people start reporting how they're finding version 13.2.7. Canaccord Genuity analyst George Gianarikas was on CNBC, I think it was yesterday. He says this: the stock is really hinging upon the new vehicle they're introducing. First, the new Model Y, the new vehicles, that's what it should have said, the new vehicles they're introducing. First, the new Model Y, which looks like a remarkably nice vehicle, and the promise of additional vehicles throughout the rest of the year. When you have new products coming out and the company has done a really good job of introducing new products that people like, yeah, those tend to really move the P&L and reinvigorate growth. So that's what he had to say. So I mentioned the other day that a couple of whales had bought into Tesla. Turns out I asked Grok. I said, "Well, who else? Or give me the numbers here." So Bridgewater Associates added a new position in the fourth quarter of 2024. We talked about that the other day. Norges Bank added a significant number of shares, approximately 35 million. Charles Schwab Asset Management increased their stake during the fourth quarter of 2024. JP Morgan Chase actually reduced their Tesla shares, but still had a very substantial proportion. Vanguard increased their stake by purchasing 3.61 million more Tesla shares. And then we've got the Duquesne family. We did mention that the other day. They bought $13 million worth of Tesla shares. And Citadel Advisors acquired both call and put options on Tesla stock during quarter four 2024 with a total investment of $3.12 billion. I had to ask what that really meant. And I guess it means that they're betting that there's going to be a lot of volatility. So I guess that would be a whole bunch of folks that are getting very, very interested. And the ones that I checked on what they paid for the stock, they were paying above $400 a share. Now, what does that tell me? That tells me that these very smart people believe that the stock is a buy with a substantial upside potential at $405, $410, which is where they bought. So that kind of puts a floor on it, at least from their standpoint. They're not buying it to lose money. Now, you and I may buy it where we don't care. Oh, if it goes down, it goes up. No, when they buy it, they're intending, they believe it's got a long way to go into the upside. The 70% rule is what's guiding Trump and Musk right now. What is the 70% rule? Well, this is a rule that I'm not sure who started it, but I did hear about it at the end of their campaign, where the things that Trump campaigned on and now the things that he is handling are things which have a 70-30 split in the eyes of the American public. So 70% say that's what we want, 30% say no, that's what we don't want. So if you got subject matters that you're dealing with that 70% say yes to, well, then you're going to be pretty popular. Well, it's working. So Trump's numbers keep going up. He's now got a 54% favorability rating. And that's the highest he's ever had. And it's been going up and up and up. It just keeps going up. And then people have been asked about the DOGE commission. What do they think about the DOGE and what's happening there? And that even has higher numbers. So yeah, this approach seems to be working. But last week, what's important, I shouldn't say, I mean, all of it's important to us. We want the economy to be screaming. We want the deficit to go down. We want interest rates to go down. All the things that they're working on right now, it's very important to us across the board. But if we zero in, if we come in a little closer on the Tesla issue, I said, well, when will some of this glory that Trump is basking in? Well, when will some of that glory start to bounce off and land a little bit on Elon Musk's? Well, because his numbers have been kind of bad. I saw as low as 39% favorability and 49% or 59%. No, I guess it's 49% disapproval. Well, the tide does appear to be turning. Elon Musk's popularity is increasing fast. The latest Rasmussen, if you guys don't follow Rasmussen, it might be because you're following the wrong people. Rasmussen has been one of the 3 or 4 most accurate polls for a number of years now. I would say at least 8 years, as I recall. They just keep beating everybody else in terms because they're actually they're actually neutral. They're not getting paid by USAID. Go figure. Anyway, they've been very, very accurate. And according to their national telephone and online survey, they found that 55% of likely US voters approve of Musk being in charge of DOGE. They like the fact that Musk is in charge of DOGE, which is a sign, of course, the DOGE is trying to find waste, fraud, and abuse. That includes 38% who strongly approve of the idea, 45% disapprove of Musk running DOGE, 37% strongly disapprove. So this is a very positive 55 to 45 rate is excellent. So that's a very, very good thing. But then what about him personally? So he has a 52% favorability according to Rasmussen and 43% viewing him unfavorably. That is quite a switch in just a few days. 86% consider it important to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse, including 66% who say it's very, very important. Now, this is way up from a poll earlier in February, so let's use Rasmussen. Rasmussen reports indicated in a February poll just a couple of weeks ago that Elon Musk was only viewed by 44% of voters favorably and 47% unfavorably. So this is a very, very rapid increase. Well, what do you think the implication of all that would be for Tesla's shares? Well, when you've got a negative thing going, like people saying, "Oh my gosh, he's a Hitler," or he's got these points of view that we don't agree with. There's a very, very small percentage of the people who are going to virtue signal by not buying or virtue signal by selling, or they might talk amongst themselves, they might talk a bad story, but it's not really going to impact their decision to buy. Just a small percentage. I don't know what the number is. It could be 3, 4, 5% of that percentage of people that are negative might say, well, I'm because of that, I'm just not going to buy. But what happens when it all turns around and all of a sudden people who used to have a negative or neutral opinion start to have a positive opinion? Well, that is going to impact in a different way. And I'm not just being optimistic here. This is me, the marketer, talking now. What happens then is a lot of these people have never sincerely considered buying a Tesla product. And all of a sudden it's like, well, this Elon Musk, I like what he's doing. My gosh, I know he's got those rockets and I know he's got, and I know he's the richest guy in the world, but I've never really paid that much attention. But wow, I really like what he's doing in DC. And we know that more than 50% of the population right now is voting Republican. Or a plurality at least in the last race, and with Trump now getting 54% ratings. So what's that going to mean? That's going to mean people, in particular Republicans, who have never really paid attention to Musk before might go, you know what? Let's take another look. What is it with this Tesla car? So I believe that his ratings are going to continue to go up. I think Trump's ratings are going to continue to go up because they're doing things that are popular. Anyway, this is going to be interesting to follow and watch. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below whether you agree with me. I also truly believe that the Democrats are blowing the DOGE thing. I mean, I think they're making a massive, massive mistake because you have, what was the number? 80%? 80% of the population thinking that it's a good idea to get rid of waste and abuse, and lower taxes and stuff. Most people think that's a really good idea. And the Dems, they're coming out and just knocking it down, knocking it down, knocking it down. You can go back and you can see videos. I just saw some on X today of Clinton back in the 90s. Clinton was going, hey, we're going to fire 200,000 workers. I mean, they're going to lay off 200,000 workers. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. This is from Chris 𝐒𝐭𝐮𝐲, DUNGEON. Not sure how to pronounce that. 𝐒𝐭𝐮𝐲. I don't know. If Elon remains plugged in at DOGE, that he's going to eventually annihilate the bond market as a second order effect. How, you might ask? By reducing future debt issuance needed to run a more efficient government, U.S. government. Okay, then what, he says? Well, interest rates will have no choice but to decline. What does that mean for Tesla? Lower monthly car payments? That and the down payment are the two things the majority of new and used car buyers actually care about. All right, so let's go through this once again, because I know that a lot of you really don't understand the bond market. Listen, I didn't pay any attention to the bond market until, a couple of years ago. I knew about it. I knew what it did, and I understood it financially, but I didn't really get it as much as I do now. So what do you got here? You've got supply and demand. You got the government has got a handful of bonds. They need somebody to buy them, literally buy them. Give me $1,000 for this bond, and over the next multiple years, I will give you X amount of interest every year or every month or however it works. And then at the end of that 10 years or that 2 years or that 20 years, at the end of that, you'll be able to turn that bond in. We'll give you the whole $1,000 back. Okay, that's how a bond works. Now, in the meantime, that bond may be worth less or more, because during that period of time that you're holding it, interest rates might go up or down, and therefore your bond goes in the opposite direction. If the interest rate goes up, that makes the value of compared to what you bought it at, then it makes the bond worth less, and vice versa. So right now, the Treasury has been coming to the public and saying, I've got a bajillion bonds here. I need you guys to buy all these bonds. And, and so they bid on them. Okay, what are they willing to pay? Are they willing to pay 4%, get 4% interest, 4.5%? What percent interest do they want? And as they bid at the auction, then that's how we determine what the Treasury bidding is at that auction. And then in between, you've got the trading. Well, okay, so I've got a bajillion of them here, and there's 27 guys standing over here, and they're going, okay, I'll buy this many. But now if I come back and next time I say I've only got half as many, but I got the same 27 guys. Well, guess what? They're going to be willing to pay more for those bonds, which means the interest rate goes down. All right, because it's always in the opposite. So, I'll pay more for that bond because I need some of those bonds. My customers need those bonds. I need to get some of those bonds, and there's not as many. I got to bid higher. Just like when there's not enough eggs, people bid higher for the eggs. Same idea, okay? So now you don't have as many bonds. Why don't you have as many bonds? Well, because the government isn't spending as much money, so they don't need to print the money in order. And the way you print the money is to sell the bonds. Well, part of the way. It's more complicated than that, but a major way is by selling the bonds. All right. So when that happens, when the bond interest rates go down, then the overall interest rates go down. The mortgage industry bases their decisions heavily on what they're able to pay pay for in terms of 10-year bonds. Car loans, etc., all are related to what the 10-year Treasury is, or in some cases the 2-year or the 20-year even. So depending on what it is, corporate lending is commonly based on the 10-year as well. The 10-year is the one to watch. If you don't want to watch anything else, watch the 10-year. That is the one to watch. So as those interest rates go down, this is good for the economy. All right, so I was going to talk to you about, yes. So yesterday, and then today, and then tomorrow, I've done multiple videos. Some are done, some are still in process, that you're going to watch if you really want to understand how the Trump administration is trying to completely change everything. No, we're not talking as much about international, although as you'll see, because I'm going to give you kind of a list of what we're talking about. The Trump administration is trying to change everything. They're trying to change the way that countries relate to one another in terms of trade. It's trying to change the way that countries relate to each other in terms of war. They're trying to change the way that the U.S. economy works. They're trying to change the way we tax people in this country. I mean, they're trying to change so much, and that doesn't even count the social stuff, like eliminating all the DEI from all schools. They've just done that. You can't do DEI in schools. The Supreme Court had already said that, but Biden ignored it. You think everybody's worried about Trump ignoring the federal district courts? Biden completely ignored it. And all these school districts across the United States have been ignoring the Supreme Court, which said, no, you can't discriminate against people for any purpose in your schools. You can't discriminate against people in your businesses. You can't discriminate against people in your government agencies. You can't discriminate against people because they happen to be one color or another color, or they're tall or short, or because they have some kind of a disability. You can't discriminate, period. Okay, so they've been ignoring it, and Trump now has said, "No, we're not ignoring it anymore. Justice system, go do your job." And boom, people are getting out of the DEI business fast. So so much change. It's so much change that is so absolutely amazing as far as I'm concerned. And by the way, I think most of the U.S. public would like to see lower income taxes. I think most of the U.S. public would like to see the end of war. I think most of the U.S. public would like to see us spending less on the military. I think most of the U.S. public would like to see us spending less on government, especially if it's fraud, waste, and abuse. I think most of the public agrees that people should be judged based on the content of their character and on their abilities and on their merit, not based on any secondary physical characteristics. Anyway, but what I'm going to be talking, so then, as I mentioned, Clinton and Gingrich years ago, you can watch videos right now of Clinton saying, oh yeah, we're going to fire all these people. And it worked. They got the economy balanced. I mean, the budget balanced. Do you remember that? In the 90s, they balanced the federal budget. They were putting money back in instead of taking it out. It was crazy. And so we can do that again. It's not impossible. And when it was done back then, nobody was screaming and yelling about it. Why? I think the Democrats are on the wrong side of history on this one. Anyway, so let me talk about these videos that I've already done and the ones that are coming up. Last night, I had a video where AJ and I looked at Tesla this quarter and throughout the rest of the coming year. I think because it was Valentine's night, it didn't get a lot of views, but I'll put the card up. That card will be up in a second. And this morning, I did one with Cern Basher. It got massive amounts of views. But if you haven't seen it yet, we looked at the bond market, and a number of people said, thank you, Randy, or thank you, Cern. I finally get the bond market. I finally get what Randy's been talking about now for months and months and months about how important the bonds are. So anyway, the Cern Basher video, incredibly good. And we talk about also the robotaxi thing, and he tries to get even more clarity on that with regard to what it really means for the stock. Anyway, then and I'll put that card up also here at the end. So then later today, Brian Wang is going to be on. We evaluated the way that Trump might actually balance the budget. How's that going to happen? It's not just a matter of cutting back on expenses, but guess what? He's not talking about just balancing the budget now. He's talking about eliminating the income tax. No, come on, Randy, that's impossible. There's no way he's going to balance the budget while also eliminating all that revenue. How could that even be reasonable? Well, Brian Wang, the futurist, okay, the guy who's number 8 now on Metaxas, I can never remember. Anyway, he's a futurist, and he's saying, oh no, it isn't even that hard. It can be done. And apparently Trump and Musk are starting to do exactly that. So we could end up having no income tax, or at least maybe no income tax on anybody that earns less than 400,000. Maybe you don't even have to fill out a form, or maybe you fill out a postcard and you just go, I made less than 400,000. Anyway, then tomorrow morning I'll have Warren, and that's up tonight at 7:45. Tomorrow morning, Warren Redlich will be on, and we will be talking about a lot of these things. But remember, Warren comes at it from a different standpoint. He went to Stanford and studied statistics. Then he went to law school, studied, practiced law for all these years, very well, very knowledgeable on a whole bunch of subjects. And Warren and I have been doing this together now for 2 years, over 2 years since the first time I had him on the show. And we have been right on a whole bunch of stuff. When people laughed at Warren and laughed at me in terms of where the numbers would be eventually. Then later, of course, tomorrow night, I'll have the regular Monday morning show where we talk about what's happening next week. And then tomorrow night, it's going to be so much fun. You got to watch this one. We've already finished the video. It's Brian is working on putting it. There was a couple of things we had to fix on it, but anyway, that'll be on tomorrow night, 7:45. And Brian is going to give, well, both of us, because sometimes I was right and Brian was wrong. But anyway, it only happened once, maybe in history. Anyway, we're going to give you a futuristic view of the complete change in the way that wars are going to be fought or not fought based on Elon Musk's statements last November, I think it was, before the U.S. Air Force Command or Academy. But more than that, because Brian's been studying war for a very long time and knows a ton about it, and has talked to a lot of major people in the what do you call it? The military-industrial complex. Anyway, he knows a lot about it. I've been studying it for a long time too, studying it especially recently in terms of the modernization of warfare and drones and things of that nature. Anyway, Brian definitely believes we can cut the military in half, totally believes we can get rid of nukes. And this is what Elon is, again, do you think, what percentage of the population do you think is going to be in favor of cutting the military in half and getting rid of nukes? Like 90? Like everybody except a few neocons? Anyway, what do you think? How's that for a lineup from Friday until Sunday night? I hope that'll be fun for you to watch. I hope that you'll put like if you like today's version, or just like in general. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'm really, really beginning to wonder why. Notify be great. And then, thank you. I had another somebody, I didn't jot down the name. I am so sorry. Got to get that name for next time. But another person joined on Patreon. I could, you know what I could use right now? I could use a couple of people that would do the $50 Patreon level. There are some of you out there who $50 a month would be like nothing, like just, oh yeah, I'd like to do that just because. And you're worth millions and you got lots of income. And so $50 a month, that would be such a help. But for the rest of us who $5 would be, that would be, okay, yeah, I could do that. It's like one cup of coffee out. Yeah, that'd be great. I'd sure appreciate it. Patreon right down below. It's very fast. You can do it just like that. Okay, that's all I got for you right now. Look for those two cards, and we will see you later tonight and all day tomorrow. It's been great talking to you.